This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo. All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh yeah, it's cooking. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Youngstown gets a new school treasurer. Brian Schiroldi gets a 6-0 vote to be the next school treasurer on the Youngstown Board of Education for a 3-year term. Effective September 8th, according to an article published August 30th by the Vindicator. Schiroldi will receive a salary of $115,000 and replace A.J. Giannetti. Now, Schiroldi served 3 years as treasurer of Louisville Schools. He has a master's degree in business administration from Youngstown State University and held a job at Packer Thomas. Big headline. Story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown headed back to Washington. For the second time, Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown will be headed to Washington while also creating more conspiracy stories surrounding cities run by African-American Democrat mayors. Now, the city has been granted over $85 million in tied down spending money from rescue aid money, and it plans to ask for more to assist. These mayors plan to ask for more to assist their cities, counties, and the surrounding districts. Now, the mayors of Cleveland, Akron, Cincinnati, and Dayton will all be joining Brown. Now, this story is still developing and continues to highlight the very important topic on a lot of America's minds, and that they're concerned about spending, the American spending. And this comes from each aisle, Democrat and Republican, but that's what got this story in. Story number 2, big headline. Story number 3. Out of 6 statewide, Struthers has been awarded a transportation grant. With all eyes on infrastructure money, Struthers is one out of 6 communities locally that has been granted a transportation grant worth somewhere up to $80,000 from the Ohio Department of Transportation, according to a local Vindicator article. Now, this includes funds to improve transportation and plans for biking and pedestrian priorities. Now, Struthers was the only community to receive the funds out of ODOT District 4. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Youngstown could lose an ambulance provider. As of August 28th, the talk seems to be about the American medical response needing an annual city subsidy of at least $750,000, or the company could be forced to shut down local operations. So they need that money. The AMR rescue services. Now, the company needs the subsidy because it costs about $300 for an average ambulance run per average ambulance run. Now, the company employs about 50 full-time workers and has been requesting a subsidy since July of 2019, according to a local Vindicator article. Now, the company is losing money, and ambulance runs have increased from around 17,000 to 19,000. The ambulance contract, that's a year. Now, the ambulance contract is set to expire December 31st, and at the moment, the City Council is not in favor of a contract, with the article concluding concluding with Councilman Julius Oliver stating that AMR Services has underperformed in Youngstown. So there's some questions about their services. This story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made in this week. Story number 5. Finance chief in Youngstown the finance chief in Youngstown is set to get an assistant, and Canfield city manager is out. Now, as of Monday, August 29th, the city of Youngstown reported its ongoing search to fill the deputy finance director's seat. That means an assistant for Kel Miasak. Now, while Canfield's city manager abruptly calls it quits. Now, each seat will most likely be filled by a worthy applicant, but investigations are now on in Canfield after because of that. But the investigations are going on by the acting city manager and police chief Chuck Colucci, who's on the case now. He says he wants to know what caused Wade Calhoun to quit. That's why story number 5 made it in this week. Almost made it to the top stories this week. And that's why story number 5 is trending, because they want to know why he just all of a sudden just decided to leave office. Big head. Story number 6. Mahoning County Treasurer's Office on notice. Failure to provide information is what an article published August 26th is stating about the state office of treasurer. The local office of treasurer of Mahoning County. Now, the article goes on to cite several transactions that drew some suspicion by the state, in which were later corrected. Now, after an audit and untimely reports, new attention is circulating around the Mahoning County Treasurer's Office. The article concludes with Dan Yema on defense and the state drawing attention to the local treasurer's filings and accountability. Now, this story is still developing, but almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Accountability is everything in this new environment, especially with all this aid money going around. Big headline. Story number 7 at the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. My niece's friend, her boyfriend probably is out there watching. He's a Marine. He's seen him at a party, and he had a party for my grandmother who's been sick, and he told me that he watches the show. So Donald, if you're out there watching, I told him I'd make a song for him. Oh, Donald, the Marine. These stories are for you in the audience. Shout out Donald the Marine, my niece's friend or boyfriend. He says he watches the show. Just got to work on my lyrics for it, but I'll get through it. So let's get to the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, especially Donald out there. Story number 7. More security requests for Trumbull County Commissioner's staff. After Nikki Frenchco's the saga, the stories go on. Now the Trumbull County Commissioner's staff is requesting doors to be locked and a buzzer system to be installed after a man claiming to support Frenchco entered the building wearing a shirt with a derogatory comment on it. How scary is that? Now the local article published August 25th claims that the staff did feel threatened and goes on to mention new measures that are being put in place to protect staff from these incidents. Now, Frenchco's stories have been in consistent headlines after she was escorted out of the Trumbull County Courthouse, a public meeting for conflicting reasons. And there's a lot of conflicting reasons as these stories continue to develop. Their stories continue to surface because this story is still developing. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Big head. Story number 8 in the top. Lucky number 8 ball story that made it this week. For you. Story number 8. I've traveled miles and miles, story after story, to give you the top local story that made it this week. Story number 8. The local gun stories are getting worse, folks. Everyone is talking about the 2% when it comes to the local gun crime watch. Young killings are keeping the city away from its fullest potential, folks, because it's being dragged. All these people are being dragged. We're being dragged away from progress being made and into crime and violence stories. The wrath of misery is weighing heavily on the local population because it is keeping them away from a land flowing with land and opportunity, causing a local population decline and mounting lawsuits and people having a negative outlook on their environment, their living, their neighborhoods. So they leave and they don't invest. They don't reinvest. Now, after a 6-year-old was shot in what appeared to be a targeted shooting, the story, like many others, is dragging the city back into a web of bad news, which they don't want. Now, the more the local community spends on trying to solve crime issues, the more people will be drawn away from the realms of real progress. The city now is in persuasion mode with a load of aid money to invest in the future, but it has to convince the future generation to stay around and stay grounded in the community. And that's the hardest part. When somebody gets shot, people go away. And when people see bad news, they go away. When they don't think their environment is livable, they go away. And that's why I started rating it to the top this week, because the gun stories, the bad news is getting worse. It is keeping people in the misery aisle instead of in the progression aisle. There's land, water, business opportunities local, but they are not seeing that. That's why I started rating it this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator, me, Brother West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, it is a Labor Day tomorrow. Well, today, if you're watching the show or whenever you're watching this show is aired, it was about to be Labor Day. And when I think about Labor Day, I think about how afraid I am to have fun. There's too many things I fear in life, but I'm actually afraid to have fun. And I like Labor Day. Labor means work, and that's what I like to do. I like to, even when I'm retired, broke, naked, I'm always trying to find something to do, because every time I try to have fun, something happens. All hell breaks loose. I mean, you try to go out, see a little bit of jiggle and jangle. Next thing you know, you get a little bit of gunning and running. You try to go out, see a little bit of toodaloo, and next thing you know, you're seeing blood and guts. Folks, in my neck of the woods, you can't have fun. You got to work. When all hell is breaking loose on the mountaintop, you got to work. When you see your mama drunk on the front page news, you got to work. When you see your little cousins blasted on TV, getting shot up by the cops and all types of craziness, you got to get up and work. As you can see, that's why I like Labor Day, because Labor Day promotes work, folks. Work is much better than fun, because when you're having fun, you wake up, the bills are still there, the problems are not solved, but with work, yeah, things are still in motion, baby, and you can dance while you work, you can sing. Well, folks, that's my story. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. How much cocaine is actually out there? Speaking of fun outside of work. 11.8 million worth of cocaine has been seized by officers. Yes, people have fun with cocaine. Too much of it. They overdose, get killed, all types of crazy stuff. The cocaine was camouflaged in a large shipment of baby wipes, leaving the question of how much cocaine is actually out there on the streets. How much got by without getting noticed. The CNN report on the discovery of 935 packages were with around the weight was about 1,533 pounds of cocaine. That's a lot of cocaine. Now, this was just one bust. Now, at the moment, no one knows how much cocaine actually got in unnoticed. That's why story number 1 is such a big headline. Story number 2, holding on to the money. And Biden's plan for the rich. All eyes are on the rich and ultra wealthy under the Biden administration to take care of the country's financial problems. Now, the administration plans to beef up the IRS while also eyeing business income. Bonus just yet, business income. The question now is how much money is actually out there for Biden to recoup, and if Biden is to blame for the rich now holding on to their money, causing a decline in consumer confidence. This story is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3, the damage revealed about legalizing marijuana after legalizing marijuana. The damage that's been revealed. Now, teenagers are getting high, folks. Grown men are getting high, and a new study has found that marijuana with high THC levels are linked to addiction, psychiatric illnesses, and an increase in addicts. Now, with many facilities booming, the marijuana business is causing a new chain reaction of addicts, and many reports pointing the finger at the legalizing marijuana. Now, with all options on the table for dealers, people are getting high at alarming rates, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions in the field of marijuana research. This story is another story that's still developing because people are getting high and they're not getting anything done. Big headline. Story number 4. Women are still a topic of discussion. In less than 5 years, there have been more stories about sexual harassment, rape, and infidelity in the headlines. The most recent story, caused by an NFL player, Matt Reza, is to be after he was cut from the team, and then because of news that surfaced about a gang rape allegations that he made with a 17-year-old girl back some time. Now, this is keeping such stories in the headlines. All these stories about NFL players and people raping and finding rape and getting caught in the sex trafficking rings. This women's stuff is serious, even little girls. Now, it's important to note that 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime, according to RAINN.org. And that's why story number 4 made it in this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories. So try to keep your ears to yourself. I'll be right back. Don't go touch anybody just yet. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. Go to the website as well. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. It is football season, sports season. NBA probably will be starting up. I've tried to stay away from sports. I'm getting at that age where I just don't want to watch it. I just like to check the scores after it's all said and done. I may take a look at the highlights, but it's sports can be devastating. It gives you a heart attack. A little guy like me standing in front of the screen cheering, and next thing you know, my team just gets a heart-wrenching cutthroat. They lose the game by a field goal. Next thing you know, I'm on the ground. I can't breathe. Heart attack, because I done lost money, and I done lost relatives, and lost my dignity and all respect. That's why I'm looking down, because that's what sports do to you. You're looking up when you're winning, you're looking down when you're losing, wondering Where do I put my eyes? I don't want to watch the game. I don't want to see the score. But I want to see progress. I want to feel like a winner. I want to feel like I'm a part of something and out there watching a bunch of men sweaty, going and blasting each other on the football field. Gets exhausting at times. So what I've decided to do is read a book, stay informed. Takes a little work, but it somehow is keeping me active and keeping me on top of things, you know. And that's my message this week. Is that this NFL season, I think I'm just going to take a break. NBA, I'm going to take a break. And I think I'm going to tune in and watch something a little bit more constructive. Maybe invest in a little bit of education spelling bees or something. Well, folks, that's my story. Let's waste no time. Sorry, NFL players, but good luck on your season. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Some complicated truths left behind in Afghanistan. The Afghan story is still in the news, folks. Tens of thousands of Afghan allies were left behind and many never to reach safety. This is according to a USA Today article. Women in Afghanistan are also on notice because many are now living in fear due to loss of rights under Taliban rule. One article describes Taliban policies as oppressive towards women. Oppressive, that's a bad word. Now, some war analysts are also finding a ripple effect connecting Russia's war strategy to the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's just a developing story, and it's still developing. So I'm still doing research to see how true that is. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Big hell. Story number 6. Nuclear plant on alert and keeping nuclear safety stories alive. The EU is now providing anti-radiation tablets to Ukraine due to fears of an accident of one of the largest nuclear facilities around in that region. Russia attacks and takes over the plant, and they're being the blame at the moment. Only it is currently only people living within 30 miles of the plant are being ordered to take these tablets. But the story is staying alive because nuclear plants are scary. If you cause a leak or some type of explosion, that could be catastrophic. This story is still developing, and nuclear inspectors are not, or what they do not want, the Chernobyl disaster. Chernobyl was a big disaster, so they don't want to see another one. This story is still developing. That's why story number 6 made in this week. The nuclear watchdog team is on alert. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. These stories that I go through, sometimes I never know who's watching the show. I mean, I come in here every week. Sometimes I get calls from people who are in prison, letters from people who are in prison. People who watch the show, and like I said, that encourages me to keep going. So keep watching, keep being active, and that's what these stories are made for, to keep you informed. So that's why I'm doing this. That's the only reason. I have nothing else better to do at my time. I've tried everything else. And this Labor Day weekend, I mean, I would rather be working than doing something unconstructive, because in this world you can get sucked into a mad black hole or a hole really, really fast, and you find yourself doing something you got no business doing, or in some type of network you got no business being in. So I'm standing here for you folks, and I feel good about it. So let's get to story number 7. Story number 7, teachers continue to make headlines about how complicated their job is becoming. A lot of teachers are not happy, and attacks on teachers have never been as bad as they are right now, according to a USA Today article. Now, the topic is, how do you ease burnout? Or teachers have been, they've had to battle through COVID-19, failing districts, they've had to meet standards, mass shootings, and they've also had to meet the standards put in place by the state, not only just by the school. Now, some are even complaining about pay and their seemingly large workload. The curriculums are getting advanced. Now, for the past 3 years, teachers have been in the top headlines, with some even threatening to strike. Now, the most recent strike talk surfaced out of Columbus, Ohio, so which got this story in. That's why I made it to the top 2 this week, because you need teachers. Story number 7, big headline. Story number 8 at the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week for you, to keep you informed, to make sure that you know what's going on, to keep you on top of your game, so that if something happens, you will know that what is going on in your community and across the world. That's, my friend, what the top 8 stories are all about. Don't you feel special? Yes. I can see something special happening. To Donald, if you're out there, keep watching Marine. Keep watching Marine. Tuning in to the top 8 stories. For Donald and all of my audience out there, my Aunt Niecy's boyfriend says he likes to watch the show. Well, let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to the top story. Story number 8. Another third-party movement may be brewing in America, folks. Just about everyone is talking about politics these days, and not too many people are happy with the current two-party system that is causing a new wave of independent filings and thinkers. The political climate is so thick in America that the next election could swing back to the right due to the current state of American affairs, and the consistent attack on conservative policies and views could be the reason. Now, these attacks made front page news after New York Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul, don't want to say that wrong, but that's what they're probably saying, Hochul in the Republican House, because they want her to be pronounced Hochul, told her opponents, this woman, Kathy Hochul, told her opponent, Lee Zeldin, she told him on the record, she said that he should get on a bus and go to Florida because he is not a New Yorker. So Republicans took offense to Kathy Hochul's demands. They said that she's telling them all to leave and go to Florida. So this backbiting is getting serious, folks. And at the moment, the divide is growing with the American people in the middle, and some heated exchanges going on between loyal Democrats and loyal Republicans. People are literally getting fights over this stuff. How would you feel if you were told to get out of your state? You've been serving, going to school for politics, been in politics your entire life. This is real deal stuff, folks. Kathy, why? I mean, what is so bad about these Republicans? I mean, they're fighting on everything. So I just try to stay in the middle, folks. These stories are still developing. Kathy Hochul, baby, can I come back home? You put me on the couch. That's what story number 8 made in this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets out there, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just Mediator, the man in the middle, trying to find a story just for you to keep you informed. Sniffing through over 200 or more stories. I don't know everything, but I do know how to navigate and try to find the stories that keep you informed, folks. Well, if you want to show some support here at Method, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen and buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or sponsor a program. In the midst of a storm, I'm doing the best I can to stay afloat and to keep you informed the best way I can. I mean, all this stuff, it gets exhausting sometimes trying to figure out whose side to be on, which side to take, but I have to stay grounded in the middle to keep you informed, to try to make it fair. Well, folks, those are our top 8 stories. I'm out of here. I'm going to come back next week looking through over 200 more stories just to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Media this week with me, Brian West. Peace. Have a good holiday. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.